Today we talk about the second chapter in my book, Own the Moments. I'm Marco Perri. Welcome to the Perri platform. Last week we talked about Guts Over Fear being the first chapter in my book, Attaining Fulfillment, 8 Pillars to Live By, and today we're on to chapter 2. But before we get there, I just want to reiterate that my book is free. It's available on all major ebook publishers, and if you don't want to get it from Amazon or Apple or Google, you can feel free to send me a message either on my website or on social media, and I'll make sure you get a copy. Now, Pillar 2, Chapter 2 of my book, is called Owning the Moments, and I want to begin with the fundamental presuppositions that undergird the entire thing. The premise here is that memories are important, perhaps even the most important thing that we own. Perhaps the real thing that defines who you are. Now, why is that? Let's talk about what happens to you when you are unable to recollect or draw upon your memories of the past. There's a reason why certain ailments like dementia and Alzheimer's are so catastrophic. Because the truth becomes a fiction to you. Things that have happened in your life are no longer grounded in fact. The very structure that you've built your life upon just happens to crumble beneath you. And anything now can be reality. You don't remember the family that you raised or the career that you grew, or whatever it may be, all of it becomes a myth to you now. And given the fact that memories are the thing that ties these past events to your ability to incorporate them into your life today, losing memories here is a travesty. They are far more than just things to look back upon fondly. They really are the components that allow you to take things from the past into the future and further make you who you are. If you forget things like your values or your education or things that you like, your dislikes, your interests, whatever, do you still remain yourself? It's highly debatable now, because nothing that someone would define you as before is applicable now. You simply just don't know about it. And even things that you own. This is why I say that memories could be the fundamental crux here to your ability to even own anything. If you own a house but you don't know it, you find yourself in the park but you can't remember where you really belong, what home is to you, do you have it? Do you have the ability to actually go there and make use of it? You don't unless someone tells you, and even then you'd be suspect because you don't know if it's true. Is it really your house? Everything is in doubt. So as you can see, it is important for you to have memories because without them, everything just becomes crazy. Everything is up in the air. That is one particular example though where you cease to have the ability to retain memories, but what if you just have a lackluster set? What if you've gone through your life not doing anything interesting and the memories that you find yourself with just are not fulfilling? They don't really mean anything to you, and in fact, they signify that you've wasted your time. Because when you're comparing with other people, you realize that your story isn't as complete. You don't really have those chapters that other people do because you just haven't sought them out. And it might dawn on you too that it's too late now, and that's not fulfilling. It's contrary to what we're trying to accomplish with the book. So that was the first fundamental pillar that inspired this chapter, and the second is that time is short. Tragically short in many cases. We actually seem to have a way of quantifying tragedy in this regard. The younger you are, the more painful a loss is because you had so much potential left to discover. Potential is the key here. The younger you are, the more time you have, and therefore the more ability you have to create memories, and that is synonymous with potential. The older you get, the closer you come towards the end of your journey, the less room there is for potential there. You still have it, you always do, but the quantity, that's in flux, and we act this philosophy out in emergencies. We prioritize children. We worry about their safety because we know there is so much living left to do. If you had the choice to run into a burning building and you could only save a 2-year-old or a 70-year-old, that's a tragedy either way, but you will be forced to make a decision between the lesser of the two evils, and I feel like the choice is pretty clear there. And that's just at the personal level. If you look at the government level too, when responding to tragedy, they always prioritize children. That's the first focus here. Evacuate the kids, get them out of harm's way, and then we'll focus on the adults and whatnot. That's the philosophy embodied in our actions as people and our collective agreement as society. There is something within us that is drawn to potential, and the loss of it at an early stage really is shattering. We don't need a rule to tell us that children facing an untimely end is something catastrophic, something that just tears apart your ability to have faith in the world. But seeing these things happen to someone who is closer towards the end, someone who's lived a full life, there's less room for regret there because they had their shot. Fairness is a concept here, and it's internalized in our decision-making process. Given that we don't have an abundant amount of time on Earth, and that we do have to make the best of our finite amount of resources, and at the same time that memories are essentially all that makes us who we are, what should we do? Those two presuppositions led me to that question, and the chapter seeks to answer that. So, this chapter, Pillar 2, as I mentioned, is called Owning the Moments. Now it's true. We cannot have all the memories in the world. We are finite. We cannot simultaneously choose to be in two places at once. We can't be a chef and a doctor and a firefighter. We can't do that. There are choices that have to be made here, and those directly correlate to the memories that you end up forming. If you want to break it down in terms of an ideological framework, there are two concepts here that are present. There's the opportunity cost and the value hierarchy in everything that we do. So, opportunity cost, that means when you do one thing, you sacrifice the ability to do another. And that's going to be very key later on in our discussion. I'll hint at that now. Let's say you have to work a very demanding shift or whatever, and it's at the same time your friend's birthday. There's an opportunity cost there. It's either you work the shift and you miss the birthday, or you go to the birthday, you miss the shift. Something has to happen. And you're going to experience whatever it is that you choose to do. And the second thing here to keep in mind is a value hierarchy. To make a decision, something has to stand out to you. If those two things didn't really have any distinction, and you didn't care about it one way or the other, how could you make a call? You would just flip a coin. Life is not like that. There are things that matter to you more than others, and therefore a hierarchy does emerge. Maybe you value friendships over your career. Maybe you value your career over friendships. Maybe you value X, Y, and Z. It can be anything. There is an infinite combination there of things that you could value that somebody else may not. Even something as simple as choosing your breakfast cereal, going with cornflakes or Cheerios, there's a hierarchy there too. In fact, every single decision that you make that has any work to it, any gravity, inherently comes with a hierarchy, because without one, all things would be equal. And that's just not the case when it comes to you making a choice. It never is that simple. There are going to be things that influence your decision, whether they are deterministic or on the free will side of things, that's up for debate. But the point here is, if we could do everything, gather every memory, have every experience, what would be their worth? Especially if we assume that would be true for everyone. Every single person would have the same infinite set of memories and experiences, and there would be no difference between you and your neighbor. Why do I say that? Because memories make you who you are. Without the memories, you wouldn't know the first thing about yourself and you'd be lost, but these things give you the power to figure out who you are. And if we all have the same set, we'd virtually all be the same, having done every experience, having understood everything that's out there to gain. And that doesn't sound that good to me, actually. We would all be literally living the same life, and it'd be a very mundane existence. There would be no difference between people anymore. There would be no need to talk to somebody because everything they say is something that you already have experienced and understand. The world would be very bleak in that manner. And it leads me to this next thing here, which is a finding. The finite nature of reality is both a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing in the sense that it gives you the ability to have a unique lifestyle. The things that you have done and underwent, likely nobody else can have the exact same set perfectly. There will be similarities here and there, but your story will never be 100% identical to somebody else's. But it's a curse also in that regard, because we do have to make choices. You can very well have a disaster of a story because of things that you've done. Also, of course, there's the environment there. Things that you don't control can mess you up too, but there is an onus on you. You have to make a choice every now and then, and it matters. The consequences of that will echo throughout your whole life. A lot of people are afraid of responsibility these days, and that there is the ultimate responsibility. So I understand where some people don't want to entertain the notion that what they do matters, but it does. And just to touch again on the blessing aspect here, there really is a grand significance in choosing to do something over another. For example, if you decide to enter a relationship with someone, you have made a decision there. The opportunity cost, first of all, is that the billions of other women or men are excluded now. You've picked one over that gigantic sum. That means something. The value hierarchy also means something too, because it means you have put them on a pedestal above all other choices. You pick them out of all the other possible options there, and that's a massive compliment. There are many people, and at the same time, just tying in the finite nature of reality, it's a fact that at some point you guys will face the horror of loss. Either through old age or something happens or whatnot, it will happen. Hopefully along the way before that does occur though, you get to develop some great memories and have a fulfilling lifestyle together. But despite that problem and the fact that you've sacrificed all other options for this single thing, that can be considered the ultimate offering in some ways, to bestow your finite supply of time and attention to one thing when infinity is behind the other door. You should start regarding your choices like that. You've chosen to go down one career path versus the plethora of others available. You have chosen to get this pet versus the plethora of others available, or that person, or this and that. It's actually a massive decision that you've made and a great responsibility. And the person on the receiving end, if you've done it intentionally, should feel honored by that. It's actually quite the beautiful dynamic, but we don't view it in this regard. Now, before we move on to the meat of the chapter, I do want to point out one more thing. Consider how powerless we've all been in terms of our genetic limitations. We actually have done nothing to inherit this average lifespan of 80 years in North America, and the maximum is closer to 100? We did nothing. That is biology that we have inherited from a series of very lengthy genetic evolution and mutations. Now, think about that. We didn't do anything to get it, and it could have been tremendously worse. What if we inherited a lifespan of a decade? Humans only lived for 10 years, and that was that. You would be fully matured by 2, you would be able to have children by 3, and you'd be an adult by 4, 5, or 6. Something similar to what dogs have, actually. Now, that could have been the case for us, but it isn't. We've gotten something closer to, as I've said, 80 years. That's, I think, the average lifespan of an individual in Canada. That's quite the blessing. Now, it could have been better. Maybe somewhere, somehow, our genes could have mutated in a way where our telomeres don't shorten as fast and we're able to live for 200 years, or 300, or 400. Or maybe on the opposite extreme, we have somehow cross-mutated and have a set of genomes that are similar to insects, where they reproduce and they replace their entire generation in a matter of months, where the adults are done in a year and growth happens very quickly. What would that mean for humanity? And even aside from aging, things like color vision, the ability to have a functioning brain, to think, to have opposable thumbs, all these things we have done nothing to actually earn. Maybe the ancestors of the past have done things to earn it, but we were just born like that. And these are tremendous blessings that we don't account for. Can you imagine how strange life would be if we did not have color vision? And the funny thing is, if we were actually born without it, we wouldn't know what we'd be missing out on, because we have nothing to compare it to. And therefore, it stands to posit that there are things that are possible right now that we just don't understand or we can't comprehend. Some animals have these abilities like echolocation with bats and sonar. Imagine if humans had that ability. We could just take in these frequencies and see where things are based on echoes. That'd be crazy. We don't have it. Bats have it. We don't know what it means to have it because we can't imagine it. It's not something we're familiar with. Instead, we got the functional brains and the color vision and being able to stand upright. All these crazy things here. All miracles in their own way. So we were kind of grim at the beginning, talking about how sometimes life is too short and whatnot, but I want to balance that by shedding some light on how great things are. They could be tremendously worse, but they weren't. We're in a great position, and it can still get better in the future. Who knows where we'll be? Now, to the core of the chapter. Our lives are unique collections of actions, reactions, memories, and bonds. We gather these throughout our journey, and at the end, we look back and reflect. One of the greatest pains would be to look back and be disappointed, and when I say look back, we look back at it through the lens of our memories. We don't want to be in a situation where the memories are lackluster. and we feel regret. We should have done this, we should have did better in that scenario. That's not a good thing. Owning the moments is a device that can help make sure you don't encounter that pitfall. So what does that mean, owning the moment? It means slowing down the important events in your life, not rushing through things that really matter to you, making sure you were there to begin with even, that you are present, that you didn't choose to actually take the overtime shift instead of doing something meaningful to you. Your mission is to create as memorable an experience as possible. You want to extract some workable figment of the past to bring with you into the future via a memory. You don't want a blurry image, which is what happens when you rush things when you aren't really giving it your all. You tried to go for an audition and you showed up, but you go on stage and you're nervous and you mess up the song because you're thinking too much. Just be in the moment. Give it your best shot. If you mess up because whatever, something happened, but you gave it your best, you can be proud of that. But if you mess up because you got in your own head and you psyched yourself out, that's a problem that you have to figure out. Or many of the moments that you enter that could have been meaningful will lose some of that essence. What you really want is a crystal clear picture or a crystal clear memory, and that only comes with living in the moment and really grounding yourself for the appropriate time. I'm not saying get lost in the waves of time, fixating on one event forever. Fixated on the proper duration of the event. Make sure you're present for it, and when it's over, because you've given it your best shot, you can comfortably store that memory and move into the future with no regrets. That's what it's all about. And at the same time, not all moments in your life are worth owning. Don't make that mistake. I'm not saying every single thing you do has to be regarded with this level of reverence. When you wake up, when you eat your cereal, when you're on the bus on your commute, you don't have to lie to yourself. Those things are not very exciting, but there will be many events in your life that are exciting, that really bring you to life, and you need to figure out for yourself which ones those are. And you have to actively try to make good memories out of them. Now, the second part of this whole thing is learning how to prioritize. So don't miss the birth of your child because you're being asked to do that overtime shift. You will slave away for a corporation, making them richer while sacrificing the greatest moments of your life, and that's never a fair bargain. In fact, it'll just bring shame to you. In the grand scheme of things, we are but a blip, a component of a larger system that has endured for eternity, and that is the world, all the life in it. It's been around for millions of years. We're just on the ride for a little bit. The weight of the world can feel crushing at times, but we are only participants here. And at that, for a brief time, make sure you enjoy it. We have every right to experience the ride in as blissful a manner as possible, but at the same time, you have a duty to make the experience as free of pain for other people as possible. When we look at things through this scope, and just the sheer magnitude of what existence means becomes revealed to you, it should be clear that you don't really have a lot of time here and you're a small component of the entire picture. So first of all, try to make the picture as good as possible for everyone, all the other small components, and at the same time, take the time to make sure your story is great as well. Because you doing that overtime shift at the expense of missing a monumental event in your story, the damage there is great. Doing the OT isn't doing much for the cosmos there, but you seeing that child be born is massive for you. For your individual perspective, your story, your journey, whatever it is, that should be very important. Make sure your priorities are straight and don't be caught up in some of the illusions of the world, thinking that you have to do this or you have to do that, or you have to maintain an image here. Figure out what's really important and stick to that. Now, moving on, I suppose the logical question that follows here is, what's the benefit of living like this? Why should we uphold the pillar of owning the moments? It sounds like a lot of work, and I can promise you it is, because you have to be mentally engaged in the things that you do. First of all, the first benefit here is that you really get to cement what matters to you. You are encouraged to differentiate between worthy moments and ones that aren't. Then, because you did all you could in the moment, you can comfortably place it behind you and bring the memory into the future. There isn't much room for regret here, because you did all you could. What can you really regret there? There might be room for you to make improvements for the future, but at that point in time, that was the maximum potential that you could show, and you showed it. Or you tried to, at least, and that's an amazing thing. So, What if you don't own the moment? Well, the results there are very clearly having a bad or insufficient memory. And because your memories make you who you are, that's not something that you want. You will be guaranteed to look back one day and feel disappointed that you let the waves of time wash by and you really have nothing to show for it. When you truly own the moment, you act in the best possible manner that you can. You couldn't have done better at that point in time. So what is there to feel sorry about? There is nothing. There's only pride to be found there, that you put yourself in a position to succeed and you've done what you could to make it the best memory possible. That gives yourself peace of mind. And this pillar too, as you may have caught on, is linked to the first one, which was guts over fear. Talking about not letting fear deter you from doing what you want to do. That's actually the first stage that you have to master. Putting yourself in worthwhile scenarios. You have to bypass fear first. That's the stepping stone. You can't own the moment if you don't put yourself in the moments to own in the first place. If you really want to go to an audition or go to a job interview that you dreamed of, whatever it is, you have to, first of all, not let fear deter you. You have to go out there and do it. And then the second part is owning the moment. That's how you have to operate once you find yourself in the scenario. Guts over fear gets you there, gets you to the door, and owning the moment is how you seal the deal. Also, you should make note, the better you get at being courageous and strong, the more moments you will find yourself in that are worth owning. That's how you build a life. Fulfillment is found by being your best self in the times that matter. Now, another question may arise. How do I start applying this mindset? Well, the first step really is figuring out chapter 1, guts over fear. Once you have a handle on that, we can move on to these steps for applying this particular pillar. First of all, you have to identify the moments that you think are worth owning in your life, and you can use the tools like the opportunity cost and the value hierarchy to try and derive a vision for that. So, the value hierarchy. What things matter to you? Would you say it's family? Or is it career? Or is it humanitarian? Is it helping out a non-profit, social cause, or whatever it is? Think about it. You could even draw the pyramid for yourself. What's at the top? That first thing there should be what guides a lot of your decisions. Things that are related to that are going to be highly important to you. And then you have the second layer, the third layer, and the fourth. Then, the opportunity cost. What things are you okay with missing, and what things would you not want to sacrifice at the expense of others? If you say to yourself, man, I never want to be in a situation where I don't have children, or you don't pursue a master's degree or whatever, well, that's going to be an opportunity that cannot be a cost to you. You cannot have that being an expense. That's something that you have to pursue. It can't be sacrificed. Now, you can say something like playing video games or watching TV. That's a cool opportunity cost. I don't mind offering that up to pursue another goal. It's actually synonymous with sacrifice. Opportunity cost and sacrifice, it's the same thing. What are you willing to give up to make sure you get to the things that you want? Think about it. Everyone's answer is going to be unique here, so I can't really tell you the particular things to pursue, but I believe you can figure it out for yourself. Now, second, once you have figured out what those things are, you have to find yourself in those moments. Then, you have to apply mindfulness. That really means just thinking. It's easy to go through life on autopilot, where you're not engaged mentally, you're just going through the motions, but that's not a good thing, especially at first when it comes to owning the moment. Slow down. Activate your brain. Just first of all, recognize, I am in one of those moments. It's time for me to act in a different way. By doing this, you'll be poised to actually think through things and make sure you're following the steps here. Nothing will be missed because you have your mind on it. And I'm not saying to fixate and stress excessively on making sure your mental capacity is on par with the environment, but just make sure you're present. Make sure you feel like you're actually in the moment and you're able to rationalize what has to be done and what should be avoided. Now, because you are mindful, you're able to bring the moment in context with your emotions, so things will pop up. You may still feel fear, you could be excited, you could be worried, you could feel very loving. Whatever it is, any emotion is possible. Now, certain emotions are good for you in that scenario. If you are in a job interview, being excited, feeling courageous, those are amazing things that will probably help you to perform, but feeling fearful, feeling apprehensive, these emotions might not be the best for you in that moment. And here's where mindfulness will help you pick things apart. Ask yourself right now, in this moment, are these emotions here, this collection I have, are each of them making the situation better or worse, or are they doing nothing at all? If they don't make the situation better, then that means you don't need them right now. Try to put those at the back of your mind. You have to do it actively. If you're on autopilot, they'll just stay there. Try to overcome the detrimental emotions that aren't really doing anything for you, that are putting the memory at risk of becoming subpar. Then, after that, as these are just barriers, you can try and produce the best memory possible once the barriers have been removed. Now, finally, once you get to this point, the last thing to do is just let go. To be yourself and really live in the moment. To thrive, to make note of the things going on around you. Don't be distracted. Don't be thinking about your cell phone or what you're going to have for dinner that night. Live in the moment. Really enjoy it. See what it feels like to be alive in that particular instance. An instance that, I will add, is meaningful to you because you decided it was. Something that you are going to bring with you into the future. Something that you want to make the best memory possible of. If you are at your wedding and you are feeling nervous about making a speech, ask yourself, in the future, will I regret not saying the things that I want to do? And if that's the case, if it will make the memory just a little bit regrettable, forget that. Make sure you do it. Because at the end of the day, that's what really matters. Having the best set of memories possible. So do what you can to make sure it happens and don't overthink it. Allow yourself to be free and truly feel what that feels like. If the moment was worthy of owning in the first place, you will definitely feel something. Like when, as we said, when you're at your wedding, you will feel something. When your child is born, you will feel something. When you get the job you've been striving for, you will feel something. These are the important moments. When you're eating your cereal for the 1,000th time, you will feel nothing. And that's one way to differentiate between what is worth owning and what is not. Now, I'll just cap this topic off with a story. So I better learned the importance of this pillar back when a university colleague of mine passed away. So we worked together on a certain portfolio. We were doing things for the school. And we weren't best friends or anything, but we were cool. We went through the motions of a typical relationship, just friendship-wise. You know, you had your moments of happiness, your moments of anger, annoyance, and whatnot. And when he passed away suddenly, it was very tragic. The whole school was shocked by it. I was forced to reflect on what was left here. What really was left to me and all of the other people who are now going to have to fill this void. All you have is the memories of what happened between you two. There is no opportunity to make any more. You have the ones that you cultivated, and you have to live with that. Are they memories that you're going to be proud of? And I thought back to my own set, and some of them were, we were joking around a couple times, had a lot of fun doing this and that, but there were instances too of things that were not so worthy. The typical frustrations that you felt when someone messes up on something, when someone does something that doesn't tickle your fancy, you feel frustrated in the moment. And I'm not talking about anything serious, just little things that seem to get the better of you once in a while. Now, it became painfully clear that this collection of memories that I had, which was all I had left of this encounter, this relationship, they could have been better. They could have been tremendously better, in fact, even at moments of neutrality. I could have made those things far more lighthearted, far more open, far more conductive of whatever loving environment that you want to create. And that was actually the point where I realized that you really have to own these moments a lot more because your time is limited. And the moments that you store as memories are all you have left, and at the same time, they're all you leave behind. Now, somebody could say, oh, well, what if they left you a baseball bat or something, a baseball glove, for example? They leave things behind other than memories, but even there, I'll say that's not entirely true. See, the actual item itself doesn't mean anything. It's still the memories there that are giving it value. The fact that they gave it to you, whether it was at a particular moment on your birthday or after you won a baseball game, whatever it is, the memory is what is important there. You can easily taint it. Let's say someone gave you a gift and you were cranky about it because it wasn't what you expected. And now you do have that remnant of the past and you want it to mean something to you, but it's always associated with you acting bratty about receiving it. The memory making process is just as important as the memory that you are left with. Make sure you're doing the things to actively ensure that you have the best collection possible and that you leave behind a good set too for the people of this world, because you are only a participant for a finite amount of time. You do want to have your impacts everywhere you can, and make sure they're good. Make sure they're worthwhile. Make sure people have something to remember you by. This colleague of mine was an amazing person. He acted as a form of mentor in a particular regard, and I can say confidently that I learned a lot from him. It was a great relationship, and I'm taking some of those lessons with me into the future. So it is a mixed bag, a lot of good things here, some things that you wish you could have improved upon, but you can't. All you can do is improve upon your remaining potential for memories. There are still things for you left to do, and you can learn from the past and make the ones that have yet to come good. Can't change what already has happened, but you can learn from it. You can take it as it is, and you move forward. That is the story of life. So, when you are at the end of the road, make sure you can look back fondly, reflect on the memories that you have, and be happy. That really is the goal of this chapter. So that's that for chapter 2. Next week we'll be talking about pillar 3, which is developing a light heart. It's really a 2-part series. Chapter 3 and chapter 4 are closely related. They deal with suffering. So pillar 3 tries to identify which forms can we let go of, and pillar 4 is which ones have to be recognized. And it'll be a great talk. So that now brings us to the end of our conversation for today. I will remind you that the book that I'm talking about, Attaining Fulfillment, 8 Pillars to Live by Marco Perri, is free online everywhere. And if you can't get it from an ebook retailer, feel free to message me and I'll get you that. I can be contacted on my website at Perri Platform and on social media at Perri Platform. If you enjoyed the content, be sure to leave a review and share. That'll help us grow. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you soon.